Cha Nipmuc. This is part one of our employee orientation series. The Nipmuc Band received a 2-year grant from the state for climate adaptation work. We are now entering our second year and realizing that we need some basic education for our employees and others outside of the normal employee handbook. This video will also be posted on YouTube to make it easily accessible. If you have any questions, please email me at cholley@nipmuc.gov. The Nipmuc Band, a state-recognized indigenous community in Massachusetts, has thrived in the state's central regions for countless generations. Rooted in our ancestral wisdom, we are committed to revitalizing our traditions embodied in Nukkone Mayash, the old ways, to empower Nipmuc people and our homeland's resilience against the challenges of climate change. Using our internal values of respect and understanding, we plan to enable our community to cope with the stressors and adapt to changing conditions while accessing, protecting, and stewarding lands central to Nipmuc identity. Our project goals for this 2-year grant are: 1, build community capacity for climate resilience by applying Nipmuc-centered climate adaptation strategies and approaches. 2, utilize nature-based solutions to increase the capacity of our relatives, including the lands, waters, and our more than human kin, to withstand and adapt to the stressors of climate change and human harm. 3, employ adaptation strategies incorporating Nipmuc values and producing co-benefits for human and environmental communities. And then 4, engage the community in education, training, employment, and hands-on activities to enhance our ability to survive and thrive during the coming climate changes. Our project objectives include, in year 1, which we've already completed, expand the growing area on the Nipmuc Reservation to include more food and medicinal plants, limit the impact of invasive plant life surrounding the reservation's natural spring, protecting a water source, restore tree diversity in the forested area of Pequod Farm, develop ecological reports for lands acquired by the tribe last year, expand environmental training, educational opportunities, and jobs for tribal members. Our year 2 objectives include create spaces within each of 4 forested areas to grow food and medicinal plants for the distribution to the community. And these areas are all within the eastern side of the Connecticut River Valley. Our second objective is to continue the expansion of tribal education and training, and to monitor the progress of year 1 objectives. Land back and rematriation hold the potential to shape a transformative and equitable future, not only for our Nipmuc community, but for all people. The long-term impact extends beyond the return of specific territories, reaching into the broader realms of justice, sustainability, climate change, and cultural revitalization. Potential long-term impacts of land back and rematriation include the recognition of Nipmuc rights, cultural revitalization, environmental stewardship, interconnected communities, educational transformation, economic empowerment, global indigenous solidarity, healing and well-being, and finally, a blueprint for justice and sustainability. So tech and iTech and the differences between tech and iTech. So traditional ecological knowledge, also referred to as tech, usually refers specifically to the accumulated ecological knowledge, practices, and beliefs developed by various indigenous communities throughout generations of close interactions and careful observations with the natural world. It is place-based, holistic, adaptive, and it integrates spiritual, ethical, and practical understandings. IK, or indigenous knowledges, is broader and encompasses the full spectrum of knowledge, practices, innovations, and worldviews developed by a variety of indigenous peoples. It includes not only the ecological knowledge, but also governance systems, social structures, languages, medicines, cosmology, education, storytelling, and spirituality. So some of the key features of indigenous knowledges, or IK, is the holistic, meaning the whole integration of all aspects of life and culture. It emphasizes interconnectedness and reciprocity among humans, nature, and spiritual worlds. And it's maintained through oral traditions, storytelling, ceremonial practices, and community interactions. Some of the key features of tech include the knowledge of local ecosystems, species interactions, and seasonal cycles, sustainable harvesting, hunting, planting, and stewardship practices, cultural burnings, fisheries management, agriculture, and forestry methods, and all of these are embedded within the indigenous or Nipmuc cultural, spiritual, and social values. So IK is the wider cultural framework within which tech exists, and tech is a specialized subset within IK, focusing specifically on ecological relationships and stewardship practices. Your responsibility as an employee. So every employee enters into this job with something to offer and something to learn. Every employee. All employees are knowledge holders because they carry lived experiences, cultural teachings, family stories, technical skills, and community insight that contribute to the collective. Employees are also knowledge receivers, engaging in continuous learning process informed by our elders, our land-based practices, language, and intergenerational wisdom. So this dual role as knowledge holders and knowledge receivers requires humility and responsibility. It invites employees to share their gifts while remaining open to other ways of knowing, including those that may not be written down or taught in conventional ways. The land itself also is a teacher, and so are the people, stories, and ceremonial practices connected to it. So all of our employees are encouraged to participate in knowledge exchange with care, respect, and accountability, understanding that knowledge in indigenous context or any other context is not just information, but it's a relationship, a responsibility, and a commitment to future generations. Indigenous stewardship in practice. So indigenous-centered land management is not just a method, it's a worldview. It recognizes land as a living relative, not a resource. These practices are grounded in teaching, passed down through generations, emphasizing balance, reciprocity, observation, and care. Unlike Western conservation models that often seek to control or preserve land in a static state, Indigenous stewardship is dynamic and relational. It adapts to change by honoring traditional knowledge systems. For Nipmuc people, land care is inseparable from culture. Stewardship includes cultural burns to rejuvenate ecosystems, planting based on lunar cycle and seasonality, and harvesting in ways that ensure regeneration. Employees are expected to understand that land management here on Nipmuc lands includes not only ecological health, but also language revitalization, ceremony, food sovereignty, and community healing. So seasons and more than human kin. So seasonal understanding is central to Nipmuc knowledge systems and other indigenous knowledge systems as well. For the Nipmuc community, the year is divided into seasonal cycles. Ninawayat, which is fall, Popanae, which is winter, Sekwan, which is spring, and Nepanae, which is summer. Each season brings different responsibilities, teachings, and ceremonies. So these cycles help inform us when and how to plant, harvest, burn, forage, or even rest. They also align with constellations, migration patterns, water flow, and even human emotions. Employees are encouraged to learn how their tasks and roles might shift with the season and how to listen for subtle signs of seasonal change that guide traditional ecological practices. So more than human kin, humans are not separate from nature. We are part of this vast web of relationships that includes animals, plants, waterways, stones, winds, and ancestors. These are our more than human kin, which we call it here in Nipmuc country, and they have each teachings to offer. Employees are asked to build respectful relationships with these kin. This may involve walking the land with intention, learning to read the forest floor, noticing bird calls or animal tracks, and recognizing plants not only for their utility, how pretty they look, but also for their presence and their being and their meaning, what they bring to all of us. From conservation to protection. So Western conservation often views land as something to be preserved or controlled, set aside, isolated, or managed using technical tools and scientific data alone. While these strategies have their place, they are incomplete from our perspective. Indigenous protection systems, including Nipmuc, shift the focus from preservation to relationship. Land is not a backdrop or a resource, it is kin. Protection means maintaining reciprocal relationships, honoring seasonal rhythms, and understanding that the health of the land is deeply tied to the health of Nipmuc people. This framework doesn't rely on distancing humans from nature, but sees humans as an active participant in the web of care. Cultural burns, seed sharing, ceremony, observing signs in nature are all part of this protection value. Redefining public safety. So in Western societies, like here in America, public safety refers narrowly to human-centered threats, fires, flood, crime, pollution, often with a focus on law enforcement and emergency response. But for many indigenous communities, including Nipmuc, we define public safety more broadly and holistically. For Nipmuc, the public includes the land, the waters, the animals, the plants, the air, people of all ages and generations, our ancestors, and our future descendants. So when a river is polluted, when an invasive plant chokes native medicines, when animal migrations are disrupted, that is a public safety issue. When indigenous people are denied access to sacred sites or land-based practices, that is a public safety issue. Developing a kinship protection value. By kinship protection value, we mean acting with the awareness that you are in relationship with all beings, not above them. That means carrying responsibility, not just rights. This value is not abstract, it guides our behavior. It asks, do our actions honor the land as a living relative? Are we making decisions that sustain future generations? How are we protecting the relationships that keep our ecosystems alive? And then to develop this kinship protection value, you have to practice observation and listening before intervening. Consider how each decision impacts non-human kin. Embed cultural values in management plans. Include our elders, our language holders, and our traditional practitioners in decisions. And move at the speed of relationship or trust, not urgency. So this is the end of part 1 of our employee training session. Please join us for part 2 and have a great day.